Welcome, my dear students of class 10 to my history class. Points as I mentioned. First point, the rise of Muslim political power. Second point, the Aligarh Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College. Number 3, various organizations. Number 4, Hindi-Urdu controversy. Number 5, Partition of Bengal. First point, the rise of Muslim power, political power, the rise of Muslim political power. You know, by the early 19th, by the late 19th and early 20th century, by the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Muslims were politically, educationally, and economically marginalized, backward, and this community needed strong leadership. There was none to lead this community. It was Sir Saeed Ahmed Khan who gave them a strong leadership by motivating them to receive Western education. He said, without Western education, the Muslims will be unable to have government jobs. The Hindus will be benefited, but the Muslims will not gain any incentive from there. So it is better for them to receive Western education, he said to the Muslim community, and encourage them by doing it so. Encourage them to accept Western education. Why? Because he felt that without education, this community would not be able to progress. Next point, the Aligarh Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College. The Aligarh Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College. What is this, my dear students? Who established it? It was a college which was established by Sir Saeed Ahmed Khan with a view to provide higher education not only for the Muslims but also for other communities. That's why he established Aligarh Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College. Sir Saeed Ahmed Khan set up it in the year 1875, and then this college had become a center of liberal education with no communal stamping or no communal undertones until Theodore Beck, a British principal, was appointed there as the principal of that very college. Mr. Beck gradually brought a change in the atmosphere because Mr. Beck, as a principal, decided to make a division between the two communities, the Hindus and Muslims. Sir Saeed Ahmed Khan was an MA and highly qualified. That's why Theodore Beck decided, as a principal of Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College of Aligarh, we know her and utilize him against the Hindus in India. Ultimately, Sir Saeed Ahmed Khan owned power from the British because Theodore Beck encouraged him a lot by saying it that whenever the Congress would gain power from the British, they would crush the Muslims. That's why he advised Sir Saeed Ahmed Khan to stay away from Congress and support the British. This made Sir Said Ahmed Khan set up a number of organizations. Now I am going to discuss about various organizations which were set up by Sir Said Ahmed Khan. Point number 3. A number of organizations were set up by Sir Said Ahmed Khan. Why? Because of the reason he wanted to strengthen the Muslim community, because they were lagging behind. They had no confidence. They were uneducated, uncultured, rude, because of their arrogance, because of their superstition. Since the British shifted them from power, that's why they decided not to receive Western education, since it was the language of the British. But Sir Said Ahmed Khan, by way of establishing a number of organizations, changed their attitude towards the British. First one, the Mohammedan Civil Service Association. It was set up by Sir Said Ahmed Khan. The Muslims could be determined, so that the Muslims could be determined to higher posts without having to go through any examinations. The Indian Patriotic Association also was a political association that was aimed at safeguarding Muslim rights in British India and preaching loyalty for the British government. In the year 1887, he convened the Muslim Conference. Who? Sir Said Ahmed Khan. Sir Said Ahmed Khan convened a Muslim conference with the sole purpose of keeping authority on the people, so that people must keep themselves away from the Congress. And next one, the Mohammedan Defense Association. It was established in the year 1893 to give the Muslims a distinctive political identity. Earlier, the Muslims had no political identity. They were neglected by the Hindus, although they could not understand it. But it was due to the effort of Sir Theodore Beck, Principal, Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, Aligarh. Sir Said Ahmed Khan understood it, and he also conveyed the message to the Muslim community that what was going to be happen was good for the Hindus but not for the Muslims. That's why they must accept Western education, they must receive Western education, and they must follow his instructions, so that this community must become strong and confident towards their aims and objectives, and must become determined to reach their goal. And next point, my dear students, Hindi-Urdu controversy. Hindi-Urdu controversy. Another point. You know what is Hindi-Urdu controversy? Urdu was the official language, or court language, and the petitions had to be written in Urdu. Earlier, it was the system in United Provinces, present day of Uttar Pradesh. But the Hindus had protested against that practice. The Hindus demanded for Hindi instead of Urdu. Ultimately, the British accepted the demand of the Hindus because they wanted to adopt the policy of divide and rule, because they knew that if the demand of the Hindus would be accepted, the Muslims would become very much arrogant, very much aggressive towards the Hindus, because the British would openly say to them that it was the demand of the Hindus. That's why they accepted their demand for Hindi instead of Urdu. But Urdu was earlier the court language in Uttar Pradesh. But ultimately, the British adopted the policy of divide and rule, accepted the demand of the Hindus, and Hindi had become the court language instead of Urdu. This incident became a cause of tension, communal tension between the Hindus and Muslims. This event spread considerable communal tension and suspicion, which you know, which destroyed the relationship between these two communities. This is Hindu-Urdu controversy of 1905. And next point, partition of Bengal, my dear students. Partition of Bengal. You know, partition of Bengal, it was a decision. It was a decision of Lord Curzon. Lord Curzon, as a viceroy, decided to partition Bengal into two halves, one half for the Muslims and one half for the Hindus, because the part of East Bengal, was actually Muslim community, Muslim majority province. That's why, in order to give the Muslims a good gift, he decided to divide Bengal into two halves. One half for the Muslims, East Bengal, and another one for the Hindus, West Bengal. Why? Because Lord Curzon wanted to construct a wall between the two communities, because both of them had been working anonymously and collectively against the British government and strengthening their unity against the British. So, in order to weaken unity between the two communities, Lord Curzon, as a viceroy, decided to divide Bengal into two halves. But it was not the official declaration of Lord Curzon. What was the official declaration of Lord Curzon? His official declaration was quite different. He openly said to the Hindus and Muslims that Bengal had become a very large province. That's why it was very difficult to them to administer such a large province single-handed. That's why a division for Bengal was essential to them, and it was to be done in the interest of both the Hindus and Muslims, because at the same time the Muslims would live comfortably, peacefully, and the Hindus also. But their main intention was to weaken the community, weaken the unity between these two communities, the Hindus and Muslims, my dear students. And by doing it, Lord Curzon, implemented the policy of partition plan. But in protest against this partition plan, the Hindus of Bengal not only protested, not only started agitation, but other Hindu leaders from Bombay, South India, they also joined the Hindus of Bengal. Bal Gangadhar Tilak came from Maharashtra and also encouraged the Hindu Bengali leaders to organize a revolt, to organize agitation against the British government, so that the British must withdraw their partition plan. But the Muslims remained silent, because they knew that it would be better for them if they were given their separate state, East Bengal, to them. In that case, they would live a peaceful life, and they would become a majority in their own state, East Bengal, and Hindus would become minor. That's why, in order to avoid being minor within Bengal itself, the Hindus started agitation, protest. There were demonstrations. A number of educated middle class people came forward in order to protest against the partition plan of Lord Curzon, and a number of distinguished leaders of Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and Gujarat, Bihar, they also joined the Bengali. But who were the first and foremost leader of India, encouraged the Bengali Hindu leaders? He was Bal Gangadhar Tilak. He came from Maharashtra and also encouraged the Hindus to establish a number of akhara and lati clubs. He provided them training of charging of using how to use lathi blowing, how to fight against the British with lathis. This lathi blow would help them to fight to chase the British. That's why he established a number of akhras and lathi clubs in Bengal, and the anti-partition movement also was started from that particular time under the able guidance of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, my dear students, up to this. Thank you.